let's begin with what is an electoral bond. An electoral bond is a bond that any individual or a corporate entity or a company can purchase from the SBI. Unlimited amount of money is what the electoral bond allows the contributor to pay, and then the political party in whose name this electoral bond is bought can encash it within 15 days. So this has been in vogue, in circulation since 2017. Who has it benefited the most? That is the most interesting aspect to look at. But before I go into that, let me tell you what the Supreme Court has said today in this regard. What are the big takeaways from the Supreme Court's verdict? Has the Supreme Court of India allowed continuance of the electoral bond system in this country? The answer is a clear and unequivocal no. But what is even more important is what is in the verdict. Let's get started. So then let me give you an idea of how the electoral bond system has been functioning so far. Under this system introduced by PM Modi government in 2017, these bonds must be bought from the State Bank of India but can be donated to parties anonymously. Donors using electoral bonds are technically anonymous. However, SBI, like I said, being a state-owned bank, is accessible to the ruling party. This, of course, is also likely to dissuade certain donors from contributing to other political parties. If this information is going to be available to the ruling BJP, who's contributing to whom, certain donors will not like the ruling BJP to know about it, and therefore they would refrain from making the contribution whatsoever. So this is how the scheme has been operating so far. Since 2018, secret donors have given nearly 16,000 crore rupees, 16,000 crore to political parties. They have become the primary method of political funding. 56% of all funding in Indian politics are happening through electoral bonds. That's how much it has been used since it was introduced. Now, this is the important part. Between 2018 and 2022 and March 2022, 57% of all donations have been received by the BJP. This is as per statistics revealed by the Association for Democratic Reforms, or ADR. The government also did away with a number of requirements. A previous law that capped corporate donations was abolished. Companies were no longer required to disclose their donations in their statements, and foreign companies hitherto were not allowed to fund Indian parties. They could now do so through their substitutes. The other important points being that in 2017, the RBI had cautioned the Modi government that bonds could be misused by shell companies to facilitate money laundering. In 2019, the Election Commission had described the system as a retrograde step, which makes it non-transparent. It's a big blot on the transparency of the electoral system. The Election Commission called it a retrograde step as far as transparency of donations is concerned, but yet it was practiced all these years. In terms of repercussions, this is extremely critical to understand that there's one party that has benefited from the system. The ruling BJP received 1,300 crore rupees through electoral bonds in the year 2022 to 2023, which is 7 times more than what the Congress has received in the same period. So when I say that this has skewed the playing field in favor of one party, you can well imagine which party it has been all this while. Electoral bonds have also contributed to BJP's electoral dominance because there are no rules that dictate that the money should only be used for elections. Guess what? It can also be used to buy up media space. It can be used to boost advertising. So the court's ruling now, fundamentally what it has done is, before the next parliamentary elections, it has tried to correct the wrongs. It has tried to course correct in terms of restoring transparency to the electoral process, which is very critical for each one of us, for our votes to matter, for our mandates to matter. This was necessary, and therefore we must all today salute the Supreme Court of India for this verdict, which actually restores the rights of the citizens of this country to have the power to elect a party of their choosing, and then to have that party frame policy which is in the interest of the citizens, not in the interest of a select few people who have the luxury to donate anonymously to one party. The issue of electoral bonds has been a highly contentious issue in Indian politics. It was introduced in 2017, right ahead of the second term of Prime Minister Modi's second term in office. So what does the Supreme Court verdict say? These are the main takeaways. The verdict is absolutely crystal clear. SBI will not be allowed to issue electoral bonds to political parties henceforward. SBI to stop issuing electoral bonds, SBI to disclose all details of electoral bonds purchased since April 2019, including the name of the purchaser. The name of the contributor since April 2019 will have to be now disclosed. This is a clear verdict from the Supreme Court. SBI to disclose details of each electoral bond encashed by the political parties within 3 weeks, up to 6th of March. All political bonds that were received by political parties will have to be disclosed, including the name of the contributor and name of the receiver. And the name of the political party, of course, that has received the funds will have to be also disclosed. This is very important. Election Commission to publish this information on the website. Electoral bonds within the validity period of 15 days which have not been encashed will then be returned, because that cannot be encashed. If it is still within that period of 15 days, it will have to be refunded by the political party to the contributor. So what does this do essentially? This essentially puts an end to the entire practice of electoral bonds. No electoral bond can be legally issued in this country any longer to any political party whatsoever. So now let's come to what are the grounds that the Supreme Court of India has cited in giving this verdict. The Supreme Court has taken clear cognizance of the fact that if this practice is allowed to continue, what it will do really is that it will allow some companies to even influence public policy in its favor. Because it's very clear that there can be a quid pro quo involved, meaning that if I am making a lofty contribution, if I am extending my largest to this political party, that party will frame policy that will suit me or my company or my corporation. This has been taken cognizance of, and the Supreme Court says this is violative of the freedom of expression, the right to privacy. It is violative of the citizens' rights to know, right to information also violated because of this practice. The fact that it has been allowed to be in practice since 2017 has, by the way, already done a whole lot of damage in terms of favoring one party over the other. I'll come to the figures on that, but here's what the verdict says. The CJI says the electoral bond scheme violates freedom of speech and expression under Article 19 of the Constitution. CJI, the Chief Justice of India, also said that the financial contributions to political parties are made either for support to a political party or as a quid pro quo in expectation of something in return, and that is where it becomes unfair to the entire process, to the entire electoral process, and to the mandate of the people as well. If some companies have their way in public policy, who the people have not voted, but they are surreptitiously guiding public policy, it's an insult to the people's mandate. Companies should not be allowed to make unlimited contributions to political parties. A company has a much graver, more stronger influence on the political process, both in terms of quantum of money and the purpose of contributions. So therein lies the crux of the matter. One can just imagine that if public policy, if the policies of this government are made keeping in mind the contributions that have come from certain quarters, that can never be in the full interest of the public. It will only be in the interest of the select few people who have favored the government. All this while, the information about who these contributors have been has been kept in the dark. The other part is, for any electoral process to be fair, it has to be a level playing field, and this practice makes it anything but level playing field, because think about it. Any political party requires large amount of funds for canvassing, for campaigning, and one can even see the amount of money that goes into the process. If you are emboldening, empowering one party to the exclusion of others when it comes to the funds that they receive, obviously that itself takes away the entire fairness in the game. that party is already in a far better position simply because it is more well funded. And that party is always likely to be the ruling party, let's face it. And in this case, what is even more interesting is that the ruling party has access to the information. All this while we were saying that the information is not disclosed, it is disclosed, but only to the ruling party, who has all the information that SBI has. It's a government, it's a state-run bank. So by virtue of that, by virtue of being a government-run enterprise, the ruling party will anyway have access to all the information. Another reason why this makes it an unfair playing field for everybody, and the election process itself therefore becomes unfair in the longer run. And that is how it has been all this while since 2017. Now let me come to the figures which will give you a clearer idea why I have been saying one party has benefited the most out of this system. It happens to be the ruling BJP.